Welcome to Dem Boyz, a podcast that is on to the off-season. We're one Saints fan and one Cowboys fan, one fan of who dat and one fan of dat win. We're here to give weekly takes, game recaps, bad betting picks, game previews, and Seinfeld references.
This week, our episode is brought to you by kicker Anton Tony K. Fritz, who was born July 10th, 1945 in Vienna, Austria. Fritz began his professional football career with the Dallas Cowboys in 1971, which is the same year the Cowboys won Super Bowl VI, and he remained with the Cowboys until 1975, missing the entire 1974 season with a knee injury. In 1972, Fritz made a 54-yard field goal, which ended up being his career long. And in 1976, he moved on to the San Diego Chargers, played for one season, then moved to the Houston Oilers from 77 to 81, where he was named to the Pro Bowl and first-team AP All-Pro in 1979. So that's right, boys and girls. You can use Fritz as your Tennessee Titan first-team All-Pro on Immaculate Grid. That season, he made 84% of his field goal attempts. Brandon, do you know what the league leader field goal percentage was this year?
It's got to be in the 90s, like 90.
It was 95. It was 95.
Okay.
Nick Folk,
92.
Cowboy legend
Folk
Nick
hero.
Folk hero.
Folk hero.
Yeah. Fritz concluded, I should say, his playing career with the Saints in 1982. And then he would pass away September 13th, 2005, in his hometown of Vienna. I'm Paul, the Saints fan.
I'm Brandon, the Cowboys fan.
We're your host. Izzy, tell him what time it is.
Yeah, that's it. It's go time. Let's see you live that.
Mr. Roundabout, please.
It's go time. This one's for you, Pop. It's go time.
It's go time.
You've been married 3 times.
That's it! It's go time!
It's go time.
All right. Let's get a few housekeeping items out of the way here. You want to contact the show? You can do so via email, blessdemboyz, BLESSDEMBOYZ @gmail.com. We're also on Twitter. I don't know if you saw this. Shot our shot with Coach Belichick. He's now on Twitter.
Ooh.
Bill Belichick.
North Carolina head coach.
Yeah. So I sent him a tweet welcoming him to Twitter, asking him for a follow. No, nothing back yet. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. But if you want to follow us, we're at bless_dem_boys. That's capital B, capital D, capital B. You can follow myself. I'm at Paul Elliott, PaulElliott _316. Brandon is at Ball from Grace. Brandon is the much better tweeter, I would say, of the two of us.
I'm a volume tweeter. I'm like Kobe. I get up the shots.
There you go.
A lot of them are,
yeah.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, as Wayne Gretzky said, according to Michael Scott.
That's true. You can catch the show streaming on Spotify and Apple. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. Appreciate all the feedback. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell random strangers. All
tell
that
the
good
bots.
Stuff. Tell the bots. Yep, the bots are they're sticking with us. It looks like every once in a while we'll tweet something and we'll get a like from Nikki or
just some random girl first name.
Yeah. But yeah, God bless him, right?
Yep.
All right. We'll get to the football. A lot to talk about in the football world right now. But before we do that, we here at Bless Them Boys do pride ourselves on our ability to talk about other things.
But enough about fish. I can discuss other things,
All right. So, Brandon, what'd you get up to this week?
So my list is pretty short. I watched a little bit of stuff, mostly just background noise. I watched a few episodes of The Office. The main thing, though, I did was on Saturday night, I snuck out of the house a little late and went to see the new vampire flick Nosferatu. I know you're not a horror movie person, so
I am not.
Have you heard anything? Have you watched any previews? Have you read the
I
synopsis on Wikipedia?
so I yeah, after we talked about that. I know it is directed by Robert Eggers,
Hmm.
who directed The Witch and what's the other movie he directed?
Good
I,
question.
I remember The Witch, but there's a couple other ones he's done. But and I know it stars Nicholas Hoult. We talked about Nicholas Hoult last week. I talked about Juror Number 2.
Hmm.
Nicholas Hoult actually was on Conan O'Brien's podcast this week. He was Conan's guest, so I listened to that interview and they talked a little bit about it.
He's done The Witch, The Lighthouse,
The
and
Lighthouse.
The Northman was the
Yeah,
other one.
that's what I was thinking of. Um, so no, so yes, I am aware. I am aware of Nosferatu and the story, but I have not. I'm probably not gonna. If I do see it, it'll probably be when it comes to streaming.
Okay, so I guess a little bit of background. So are you familiar with the original Nosferatu, the 1920 version?
I've seen clips of it, yeah, here and there.
Yes. It also made a brief appearance in SpongeBob once.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this was basically the like original Dracula movie based off
Right.
the original Dracula story. I think the original was unlicensed, but basically it was like they didn't have the rights to the story, but they tried to change it, but it wasn't. It was basically like if they made it and called it Bracula. So, but anyway, so
They
this is
they couldn't get the numbers to work. Yeah, they couldn't
no,
finish them.
they could not get the numbers stored. But anyway, so it's very well known. But anyway, this is kind of like a updated version of that. It's based on that movie, which is based on Dracula. So there's a lot of stuff. I actually did Dracula, not knowing that this was coming out. I did the audiobook this year because I've always wanted
Mm.
to like read the story, and so I did that this year. And so there's a lot of stuff that I could see from the book. But it's basically, I think in the original story, it's set in England, and then they go over to like the Transylvania, which is kind of Romania area. This one, the main character's in Germany, but then goes to Romania, um, and finds Dracula. Then he follows them uh, back to their hometown, and then haunts them. There's a plague and everything. Um, Pretty dark. Uh, Pretty a lot of kind of weird. It's kind of weird, creepy, not super gory stuff, but there's one scene where like a guy bites the head off a pigeon. Um, and
Oh,
sort of
okay.
stuff like that going on. Yeah, so he had no deal with the pigeon. Apparently, he was not in
Well,
on the deal.
was this guy played by Ozzy Osbourne by any chance?
He was not, but I think Ozzy probably auditioned for the role, or maybe like did some, helped him do some of the method acting. Probably gave him some lessons. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It was really I think it did a good job of like kind of adhering to the original Dracula story. And the guy who played Count Orlok, who is basically Dracula, was Skarsgård, who was also
Yep.
he was It, Pennywise the
Pennywise. Yep.
Clown, and It.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, so he's really good in those roles. I think I've heard that he wants to play Joker, which I think he would be. I feel
Yep.
like he would make a really good Joker. So
So
I'd recommend it
I
to anyone who likes scary movies.
okay. So I have, even though I am adverse to scary movies, I have seen It Chapter 1, and
Hmm.
Skarsgård is terrifying in that movie. Yeah,
He's so good in that movie.
yeah.
I will say I loved It Chapter 1. I didn't like the second one as much because there was like too much CGI going on. I thought it kind of
Mm,
like made it less scary,
yeah.
basically. But yeah, this was really good. Recommend it to people who like scary movies. Um, if you want to check it out, once it's available to stream,
Mhm.
feel free to. Um, what about you, Paul? Anything?
So I went with a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. Well, I say that I watched an older movie called The Apartment. Have you heard of this movie? It's from, I want to say it's the 50s or 60s. I can't remember the exact year, but it stars Jack Lemmon
Okay.
and Shirley MacLaine. Jack Lemmon plays an up and coming insurance. He works in an insurance company, and he basically allows the senior partners at the company use his apartment for their dalliances. Let's say, like their,
Uh-huh.
So, and that's and then it's kind of it's kind of an old school like romantic comedy. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really thought it was quite good. So he kind of has this thing for Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine plays this like elevator operator in the building that he works in,
Uh-huh.
and they kind of have this like flirtatious relationship, but it's one of those like he's kind of in the friend zone, to use a more
Gotcha.
modern term. Yeah. So, but no, I definitely, it's on, I'm trying to remember how I watched it. It was on, I think, Tubi. Yeah. If you're familiar with the service Tubi.
Right. It's like one of those free streaming sites.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I definitely would recommend, check it out. If you're into older, movies from a
Bygone era.
Bygone era, but yeah, I definitely would recommend that.
Speaking
And then,
speaking of bygone era, I will
sure.
say elevator operator, not something you see anymore. That
No.
got in the way of
Yeah.
the dinosaur. Should we bring that job back, Paul?
Yeah. Why not? I don't, I
You
mean,
can have someone push the button for you,
yeah.
save you a little.
Or just, just have a robot do it, right? AI or something like that.
Oh, there we go. Allen Iverson. I don't think he'd
Oh.
be up for that.
I like this idea.
I like this idea. Fifth floor. We talking about the fifth floor, not the penthouse.
That's pretty good.
What else you get up to?
So a little more modern movie actually won a Golden Globe this past week for best screenplay. Conclave. Have you heard of Conclave?
I have. This is the one where is it talking about the choosing a pope?
Yes. So Conclave refers to the process by which, as you just mentioned, a new pope is chosen. It stars Ralph Fiennes, who is very good in the movie. John Lithgow is in it. Stanley Tucci gives a very good performance in it. A couple other good performances. But basically, yeah. So when the movie begins, the current pope has passed away. So Ralph Fiennes is tasked with leading the conclave to select a new pope, and it kind of goes through that process. And I thought it was, again, very good. So I would definitely recommend it. I'd give it a thumbs up.
We actually watched a movie. We have actually watched a couple of movies with Ralph Fiennes, Ralph Fiennes recently in our house.
Okay.
Not as serious as this, but the Harry Potter movies. My oldest has been watching those.
Yeah, my wife is a big fan of those. My wife will get into this. So right now it's the Hunger Games, but for a while it was Harry Potter, where she'll just put them on at night to fall asleep to.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, she's all right. And then I binged season 1 of Severance. Have you heard of Severance?
Severance is on. Is that the one that's on Apple TV?
It is.
Okay.
Season 2 starts a week from Friday, so I was like, let me check it out. And I'll be honest with you, Brandon. I watched the first episode, and I was like, you ever like watch a show, and you're like, yeah, this is pretty good, but like I'm just not in the right mood for this mindset for this show right now. That's kind of how it was with Severance. I got to the end of the episode, I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. There's actually a Seinfeld connection.
Okay.
And I don't think this gives too much away, but one of the actors in the show.
Well, Seinfeld's been over for a while. I don't think you're going to spoil anything.
Fair enough. You make a fine point. one of the actors in Severance may have a problem with you not wearing the ribbon. I'll just leave it at that.
Gotcha.
So
Who would not wear the ribbon?
when he showed up, I was like, "It's that guy."
He wants your armoire.
He wants your
Oh,
armoire.
look at this armoire. It's beautiful.
And don't even think about burning the Puerto Rican flag around him.
Absolutely not.
But in all seriousness, Severance was one of those shows that it got better as it went, and then by the end of the season, it's like, oh man, this is really good. This is so I would, if you have, it's I'm trying to think. I think it was 9 episodes this season.
The problem is we don't have we'll do Apple TV in spurts, so we can just like binge a bunch of stuff on there, and so we may eventually just have to do like a couple of months so we can watch Shrinking, because that keeps popping up across like multiple podcasts that I listen to, and then I would like to rewatch the Macbeth movie that's on Apple TV.
So I do need to. That's the one with Denzel, right?
Yes, and it is excellent.
Yeah, I need to watch. That one's on my list to watch. So I was doing the same thing with whenever Ted Lasso would come back. Basically, I would sign up, do it. But
We
yeah,
somehow
Shrinking.
managed to get a year of free or a certain period of time with free Apple TV, so we were able to watch all the Ted Lasso, and so like and then we cut it off.
It's coming back. You know, Ted Lasso's coming back, right?
I know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I was kind of
like just having the cutoffs.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I would definitely recommend Severance. I'm kind of excited that season 2 starting a week from Friday. It's weird because very rarely, like, there's not a lot of shows. I mean, we've talked about them on this show. Like, I don't have a lot of week to week shows, you know, that I watch. Like the Penguin we talked about, which, by the way, shout out to Colin Farrell. He won a Golden Globe for the Penguin this past week. But you know, like there's a couple shows I'll watch week to week, but it's so weird when you binge a show and then you catch up and now you have to watch it. You have to wait a week between episodes.
I've done that with podcasts too. So like, there's a few serial podcasts. I found this podcast, would listen to all the episodes, and then I'd finish it, and then I'm like, well, what do I do now? What do I do with my life?
Right. All right. Anything else you want to discuss before we move on?
No, I think that's it. I think we can get to the football of the college variety.
I'll let you start with your picks because yours are much better than mine.
Well, I've kind of taken a step back, and what irritates me is there were a couple of picks that I had right, like the Arkansas State game was one that I switched last minute.
Right.
Don't think the Buffalo Liberty one, but the one before that.
Was it Bowling Green? Didn't you switch Bowling Green? Or something?
Yes, I had Bowling Green, and because I looked at the line and the line had moved like 10 points, and I was like, oh, I'm on the wrong side of this. And I would have been fine if I just stuck with my gun. So I was originally I got up to 17th overall in the ESPN challenge. I'm currently 31-13, ranked 149th. So not doing too shabby still, but I don't know that I'll finish in double digits right now. Yeah. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, not so good. So
meaty part of the curve.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm on the wrong side of the meaty part of the curve. So 18-26 against the spread, 25. Although I did have, there was one day, I think it was the last like Saturday, like the last full Saturday of games.
There was like 5 games on that day.
Yeah, and I was 4-1, and I was 4-1, and I believe I sent you the gif of Frank Costanza.
Yes, I believe you said something along the lines of this.
Baby!
Yeah, yes, sir. But yeah, so you know, at least a respectable end to the to the bowl season for me.
You got one feather in your
Straight. Yeah, one. That's a feather in my cap. Straight up 25-19, so a little bit better there. Do we want to go through real quick our picks for the remainder of the college football playoff? We got 3 games left in the college football playoff here.
Yes. I do remember who I picked in these. I don't remember the spreads. I know because I took Ohio State minus the 2.5, and I believe the Penn State Notre Dame game is 1.5 on ESPN.
Correct.
And I'm taking Penn State in that one. I don't feel very strongly either way in that one. I don't think. I know Notre Dame played really well against Georgia, but they also had like a couple. I think the really surprising thing was how much Notre Dame kind of dominated Georgia's offensive line, because I wasn't able to watch this because it was like during the day at work because of the schedule change. But I was following along, and it just seemed like Georgia had one good drive, and then they had some stuff go wrong on that, and then they settled for a field goal. I know they had that one play where the guy on the sideline got a sideline interference penalty.
Yeah.
I'm sure he is probably in witness protection right now.
I think he post on Twitter like the next day that he was entering the portal or something.
Yeah, he couldn't get in the portal. He entered the portal. He entered the portal while that game was still going on.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but it seemed like Notre Dame actually was able to get on. Was playing in Georgia's backfield a lot, and then and that just forced a lot of pressure. And then they had the big swing around halftime with the into half, and then the kickoff return to kind of just like, and then once Georgia was in the hole, they weren't getting out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, Riley Leonard, I don't even think he hit 100 yards passing for the game.
I think he had 10 more yards passing than he had rushing or something like that.
Yeah, so did what he had to do. I am laying both the points in both games. Notre Dame minus 1.5 and Ohio State minus 2.5. I'm very interested to see. I was impressed going back to the Rose Bowl against Oregon. I was impressed with Will Howard, the Ohio State quarterback. Thought he played really well. I mean, obviously the game got out of hand pretty early, but I'm interested to see, and both those quarterbacks in the Cotton Bowl, Ohio State and Texas. Yeah, I'm interested to see both Ewers and Will Howard, how they both play. I think that'll be a good matchup. And also in the Orange Bowl, Notre Dame and Penn State. I don't know if you've been keeping up with Drew Aller's. But Drew Aller has declared that he's going back to Penn State next season, but there's whispers out there that if he performs well in these next 2 games, that
could change.
He may do the switch. Which would be of interest to me as the fan of a professional football team that is in need of a quarterback. So I'm going to keep my, but apparently I read somewhere where he wants to be assured that he would be a top 3 pick, which I think he would be anyway. Cause from what I've heard from the draft people, like they already think he's better than both Cam Ward and Shador right now. And I mean, we'll talk about the draft here in a minute, but like the teams at the top are definitely quarterback needy, I would say. So I don't know.
Outside of New England.
Right. But like the top 3 teams.
And I will say I don't think I've watched Aller closely enough to have a really strong opinion on him either way.
Right.
I've seen like a couple of good things, and so like I'm generally positive on him. Like that's my general opinion. I will say I'm probably lower than most people on Cam Ward, just because like the ceiling's there, but he will have the moments where he'll
Yeah.
kind of he'll gunslinger it, he'll put it in danger when he doesn't need to. He'll like have a moment where he's like going down for a sack, and then he'll like try to bail out and just throw it, and it's like right to a defender. Like if you can take some of that out of his play, then I see the upside. But he's the one where I'm like, I can see the downside there too.
He's got a little Jameis Winston in him. I would
He
say.
does.
Which, speaking as a fan of a team that's employed Jameis Winston, that could be good and bad.
Sometimes you can ride that variance the right way, and sometimes it kills you.
So let me ask you this. Obviously, you have a rooting interest in the Cotton Bowl. So what do you think? Do you think the Longhorns can pull it off against the Buckeyes?
I mean, I think they can, but I would start by covering Jeremiah Smith, who appears to be the second coming of Julio Jones.
Yeah.
I would start there.
Yeah. Oregon had trouble with that for sure.
They did. I will say that I like the fact that it's in Dallas. That's a slight advantage. Yeah, it's an uphill battle. I feel like Ohio State is the pretty much the clear favorite right now.
Let me ask you this. More likely to win the national championship, the winner of the Cotton Bowl or the winner of the Orange Bowl?
I got to say Cotton Bowl. I think because Ohio State's looked pretty unstoppable right now to this point. If Texas actually goes in and beats them, I'd feel a lot better about that. I think that tells me a lot more about them than kind of Notre Dame, Penn State, and what, especially Penn State, what they've had to go through to get to this point.
Right.
I think Penn State, I think they're both good teams, but it's like I think the ceiling on whoever wins the Cotton Bowl is probably higher.
Yep. I would tend to agree with you. So we'll see. So again, I'm laying the points with both. What did you say in the Orange Bowl?
I'm laying the points with Ohio State, and then I'm taking the points with Penn State in the Orange Bowl.
Okay. So we'll see when we reconvene next week. We will know what the national championship game will be.
I do kind of like. I will say this one more thing before we close out on that. I do like the fact that we're like 6 point in the market right now. We're like 6 point dogs, and so I feel like at least if we lose this game, and especially if it's a respectable game, I won't feel as bad. Whereas in the Arizona State game, if we had lost that game, I would have felt miserable. So I feel like to this point now, we're a little playing with a little bit of house money in this one.
Yeah. I will say that Peach Bowl got interesting there towards the end.
Yeah.
Thanks to Mr. Scatabo.
Well, there was Texas had some self-inflicted wounds too.
That too.
Ewers plays that I think you'd like to have back.
For sure. All right. Well, let's move on to the professional ranks here. We'll start with our pick recap. So the regular season is now completed. So against the spread, I was even Steven for the year, 136 and 136 after a 9-7.
There's a feather in your cap.
Yeah.
So you're going to go ahead and take your victory lap here, Paul?
No. I'll just, I was just happy to finish 500. I know I didn't turn a profit. We've talked about this. Andy, the Bears fan, corrected me several weeks ago about that. So, but for straight up, finished 9-7 for week 18. For the season, there 159 and 113. So definitely feel like I turned a profit straight up for the season.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say I finished on a upswing on my upset pick. Panthers over Falcons, felt pretty good about that one. And then my lock, I was trying to. So when I was putting the format together for this week's show, I was like, "What was my lock for the week?" And I remembered, I took the easy way out when Ravens over Browns.
What is it, the Staples easy button? You hit that one.
Yeah, I hit the easy button. So by my count, my upset picks for the year 9-6, not too
Mhm.
shabby, and for my locks 11-4. I will say, so we've talked about all season. I predicted everyone's record beginning of the year. I ended up with 4 correct predictions: the Chargers, the Panthers, the Texans, and the Ravens. And then 10 teams, I was off by 1 game: the Giants, the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Steelers, Bengals, Packers, Colts, Bucks, Rams, and Cardinals. So I feel pretty good about half the league almost. I was
Mhm.
either spot on or within one game. My biggest discrepancies were the Jets.
I think we were all off on the
Yeah,
Jets,
we were.
Paul.
That was a big one. The 49ers was a big one. That was a little more.
That was another. Well, that's another one that we're like.
Yeah.
Expectations were off for everybody.
I had I forgot to put this in the notes, but for playoffs in the AFC, I got 5 out of 7 right. I think the
Who did
2.
you? I was going to say, who are the 2 you missed?
So the Jets, because I picked the Jets
Right.
to win the AFC East. I did have Buffalo in the playoffs. I just didn't have them. I just had them as a wild card. And then the Bengals. I had the Bengals. So I did have 3 AFC North teams in the playoffs. I just had the wrong 3. I had the Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals. No. I had the Ravens. Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so you had, but there's only 2 in the playoffs.
No. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The NFC North.
It's
I
the
had
North. Yeah.
Yeah, I had 3 NFC North teams, but I had the Bears instead of the Vikings. That's what it was. Yeah. So I had
you trusted Caleb Williams over Sam Darnold, Paul.
Yeah, well, I learned my
Hindsight
lesson. I learned my lesson until the Bears hire Mike Vrabel, and I'll be back next year. So for the pigskin win totals, I beat you out by 1 game. I was 19-13. You were 18-14. So
those Browns couldn't come through for me.
Well,
the 17 and a half point dogs. They did not. I was looking at that game. I was looking at the betting sites before I think Friday night. I was checking it out because I kind of wanted to put something on the the first half line. That game had gotten up to like -20.
Yeah.
By like Friday night.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. And nobody and it was just going to keep going up because nobody was betting the Browns. So you could have put it at 4 touchdowns maybe, and people still would have been pounding the Ravens.
Yeah. So all right, for my picks, I finished. What did I finish? 2 games behind you this year, 134 and 138. What was I last week? I forgot to write down my picks for my records last week.
I can look it up real quick. Give me a
okay, while you do that, I will say I'll go over my upset pick. Jags could not pull it out over the Colts. They got the game to overtime. So I've finished I want to say 6-9 there. Is that right? I'm doing math here.
Yeah, I think because we had 15.
Yeah.
We picked 15 weeks because we started week 4. So week 4 to 18, that's 15.
Okay, so and then for the my lock, the Packers could not continue their streak against the Bears.
Yeah. Shout out to Andy, the Bears fan. I reached out to him Sunday. I told him congrats. Actually, that Bears victory helped the Saints out with a draft wise. So,
so I finished 13-2 on locks. Both of my losses were when I picked NFC North teams. I lost the Vikings against the Rams 1 week.
Okay.
On a Thursday game when I think that was when Puka and Cooper Kupp had both come back.
Right.
And then
that's the game that kind of turned the Rams season around because there was talk if they lost that game that they were going to trade Kupp and maybe even Puka too, but they ended up winning it. So
And
And
then,
then yeah, and
and
just
then
to
this week.
yeah, and then just to circle back, you were also 9-7 in the week
Okay.
18 against the
Oh,
spread.
that's not too bad. I'll take that.
No.
I was going through the game list while I was making notes for the show this week, and I was like looking at
Yeah.
I kept seeing miss, 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 miss. It's
Miss.
not looking good. Not looking good. So
Yeah, let's
that's where we'll finish the year.
yeah, that's so hopefully maybe next year we can both be over 500 for the season. Here's hoping, right?
We can only hope.
We can only hope. Okay, so let's move on to week 18. Let's run through just kind of quick recap of what happened in week 18. Start on Saturday. Ravens 35, Browns 10. That was brought to you by Paul Kruger.
Cougar.
So Baltimore clinched the AFC North. They got the 3 seed. Cleveland ended up getting the 2nd overall pick. Yeah, because New England won, Tennessee lost, and Cleveland lost. So that
Yeah, the Giants were 3rd.
And the Giants were 3rd, yeah. So yeah, I mean 35-10, nothing
Yeah,
nothing
I
real.
turned this game on to see what it like. Maybe Cleveland could give them a little
Right.
bit of a fight, and I figured out very quickly that there was not going to be a fight. And so I moved on to better things.
Yeah. That's probably for the best.
It was.
Yeah, so the Ravens clinched the 3 seed, clinched the AFC North, and I think they're going to be a going concern here in the playoffs, but we'll see.
Mhm.
Not making the playoffs were the Cincinnati Bengals. They did beat the Steelers 19-17. That was brought to you by BW Webb. So the Steelers losing, that dropped them down to the 6th seed because the Chargers did win on Sunday.
Mhm.
So the Steelers will now go to Baltimore Saturday night. That's on Prime Video, exclusively on Prime Video. We'll talk about that a little more in a bit. Look, here's what I find funny about the Bengals. If you go back to week 1, they lost to the Patriots.
They were 8.5-point favorites going into that game.
So here's the thing. The Patriots game?
Uh-huh.
So here's the thing. If the Bengals beat the Patriots, the Bengals make the playoffs, and the Patriots get the 1st overall pick.
So it was a
Really?
lose-lose. That was a lose-lose for everybody.
So think about that. Like that one game in week 1 decided the Bengals missing the playoffs and the Patriots not getting the 1st overall pick. So, and the Bengals moved on from their defensive coordinator, Lou. I'm not going to pronounce.
Yeah, I would butcher that name.
Amaretto. Not
Amaretto sour.
Amaretto sour.
They Amaretto soured on him.
Yeah. Dennis Allen, come on down. That's going to be
That's your
pounding
prediction.
That's been my prediction ever since the Saints fired.
Do we have betting markets on assistant coaches or on coordinators?
Yeah. Well, they did. I did see the Bengals put in a request to interview Patrick Graham, who is the Raiders defensive coordinator, for that job. So we'll see. But Dennis Allen would be my best guess there. Speaking of the Saints, boy, they had them in the first half, but
let them off the hook.
Yeah, they let them off the hook. Bucks 27, Saints 19. That was brought to you by Martin Gramatica. There is a merciful God. This Saints season is finally over. Rattler, you know what? Rattler looked pretty good in the first half, but the story of the Saints season, no adjustments made second half. Kubiak just made no adjustments. The Saints had 3 consecutive drives of 10 or more plays, followed by 3 drives of like 3 and out, and 4 and out. You know, like it was. That's just, you know.
So 3 drives of 10 or more plays, and then 3 drives of 10 or less yards.
Exactly. Yeah. But you know, hey, but Rattler, I thought he looked pretty good in the first half.
Worth keeping around at least if you can't.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I texted you this on Sunday. I I'm perfectly fine next season if we go 5-12 again and Rattler starts the whole season but progresses. I would
Uh-huh.
rather that than start Carr and maybe win 2 extra games.
I can't believe you don't want to start Derek Carr. I know how much you love him.
But do you follow my logic though? Like, all
Yeah,
kidding
yeah,
aside, like
yeah.
I because I do think if, and again, this all depends on what, and we'll talk about the coaching situation maybe here in a little bit, but like if you're telling me a year from now, okay, you can finish with 5-12 again, but Rattler started the entire season and he showed progress.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we go 5-12 again, maybe he didn't show, but you have that scenario, or you can go 7-10 and Carr started the whole season, and now you're in a situation where maybe you move on from Carr anyway.
Right.
Like, I I don't know. I kind of prefer option A if I'm being honest. Like, and again, a lot of this is going to depend on
The coaching
the
situation.
coaching situation. Well, we can talk more about that. But real quick on the Bucks, so they win, they clinch the NFC South, which they would have clinched anyway because the Falcons lost. But that's
Mm-hmm.
another story. But they also clinched the 3 seed because the Rams decided to rest all their starters against the Seahawks. Yeah, and go ahead. I know what you're going to say about the
I have one question
Mike
here.
Evans situation. Yeah.
The Saints had the Saints had an opportunity to do the absolutely funniest thing in history. You know what's coming when they line up for that play.
Yep.
Why not put every single defensive back on Mike Evans and just surround him and and say, I don't care what you do, Baker. You're not like you run around for 3 minutes if you want. We're not letting
Yeah.
you throw this.
It's
They should have done it just because it would have been hilarious, for one thing.
it's 2 seasons in a row where the last play of the season gets scrutinized. So, like, if you remember last season,
Was that the Jameis go and
yep,
score?
yep, and then Dennis Allen, this kind of put the nail in Dennis Allen's coffin a little bit. He went out and apologized
Mm-hmm.
for the Falcons, and then this year, Rizzy, and I think Rizzy after the game said he was trying to call a timeout, but they didn't, like, because he understood the situation and he wanted to call a timeout, and I guess the refs didn't see it or whatever. So yeah, I think that kind of cooked his goose. Although Darren Rizzi, I don't know if you saw this, he is going to interview for the Jets job.
Wow.
Or the
Best of
Jets
luck.
requested permission. I think the Saints granted it, but yeah. But look, for the Bucks, I think they could be. I said this on the show last week. My prediction, sure to go wrong, in the NFC, the Final Four will be the 3 NFC North teams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. The opponent for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this weekend. Do you want to talk about their game from this past week?
Yeah, the Washington Commanders beat the Cowboys 23-19 on a last-second touchdown thanks to Marcus Mariota, who played the second half. Hilariously, the Commanders played all their starters and looked like they were playing as hard as they could to win with their starters until halftime when they pulled Jaden Daniels because he was bad.
Gotcha. Yep.
He was being outplayed by Trey Lance to that point. That is pretty bleak.
That is an indictment.
Dallas actually moved the ball well in this game and then had to settle for a bunch of field goals in the red zone.
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing this game was brought to you by Kai Forbath.
Yeah, that's right. Kicker extraordinaire.
Yep.
Yeah, and it seemed like I was listening to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and they kind of went through the play calling in the red zone because they got down within the 5 several times, and then they were running fades to Brandon Cooks, which You are familiar
Okay.
with Brandon Cooks. I don't calling a
Yeah,
fade to Brandon Cooks is not going to increase your chances of winning a
I
football
wouldn't.
game here.
I wouldn't
Um,
suggest it. I wouldn't suggest that. No.
no, but it seemed like they were running kind of plays calls to see what Trey Lance could do instead of
Yeah.
optimizing your chances of scoring there.
So
Like instead they weren't running like zone read stuff, which is what you probably want to do with Trey Lance in that situation. So it seemed
yeah.
like they were playing to let's do get figure out what we got in Trey Lance, but also let's not necessarily win this game.
Well, and
Uh,
let's also not pay Cooper Rush his
it's
incentive,
two hundred
right?
fifty thousand
Yeah.
dollars. I do wonder if they'll, because a lot of times when teams do something like that, there are times where they'll actually go back and
Pay
pay
him anyway.
them the
Yeah.
bonus anyway. I wonder if they'll do that.
Yeah.
And then maybe it doesn't count against the salary cap that way if they do it that way. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm spitballing.
I don't know.
But yeah, this game honestly did not actually make me feel any more confident in the Commanders going into Tampa Bay to
Yeah.
Daniels did not look good. That said, I don't know that I trust the Buccaneers defense, and it doesn't sound like their performance in the first half would make you feel all that confident in their.
I texted you this during the game. I just felt like the Buccaneers in the first half against the Saints just came out playing tight, like they didn't.
Uh-huh.
And there was a play early in the third quarter where Mayfield scrambled, slid kind of late, got hit, and got up and started talking trash to, I think it was Will Harris, the Saints safety, and that kind of seemed to wake the Bucks up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they kind of got everything back into gear. Yeah, and look, I think it's going to be an entertaining game Sunday night, Commanders and
Mm-hmm.
Bucks. We'll talk more about it later, but yeah, I could honestly see either one of those teams winning, but whichever one does win, I don't see them winning the next week.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
But moving on here, Panthers 44, Falcons 38 in overtime. This was brought to you by Brett Maxey. So the Falcons, this was a game of the week, probably, if we're being honest. I mean, back and forth. Penix was dueling, but man, Bryce Young. I joked about this last week. Like, could Bryce Young just win Comeback Player of the Year just for
just for
half a season or whatever?
Yeah, just for being bad.
Right. Well, look, if they're not going to give Sam Darnold the award because of that, I don't think they're going to give Bryce Young. But I will say, the Panthers. So a couple things. As a Saints fan, I find it hilarious that the Saints finish last in the NFC South because the Panthers win this game, but the Panthers get a better draft pick because their strength of schedule is worse.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, but what all that to say, I think the Panthers could be one of those teams that take momentum towards the end of the season, take it into next year. I mean, obviously, Bryce Young definitely looks like he's figured it out now. If they go out and invest in some talent around him, I was reading something earlier that they're probably going to be in on T. Higgins and also maybe Garrett Wilson. If Garrett Wilson really wants to be out of the Jets business, yeah. So if that happens, then yeah, they could probably. I mean, depending on what happens with Tampa, I feel like Tampa's going to be good next year again. And the Falcons, I know you've had in the notes here about their defense is just woof. And having a defensive, I almost texted you this, and I almost feel like Raheem Morris would be on the hot seat, but I don't know.
It's hard to now because they made that quarterback change, right? And then things started looking a little better, but like their defense is so bad. Like you just gave up what 44 points or 38 points in regulation to the Panthers, who are still. I mean, their wide receivers are Adam Thielen and gosh, who's the other one that they
Coker? Coker,
Yeah,
Jalen Coker is one of them,
Jalen
and
Coker, Deontay Johnson's not there anymore, who they tried
yeah,
to bring in the offseason.
yeah. Steve Smith's not walking through that door. Yeah,
He is not.
no, but yeah, and Bryce Young and Adam Thielen, they just seem to have a connection, man. Like they were, uh, but yeah, Young. I was very impressed by him. But also, I'll just say Penix looked pretty good too, and they
Mhm.
definitely have some talent on offense. Your guy Bijan Robinson,
Mr. Mustard.
Mr. Mustard, yeah, he's
I guess we should call him Colonel Mustard.
sure, why not? But yeah, speaking as a Saints fan, both of these teams definitely look going into next year in better shape than the Saints. I would say, even though the Falcons do need to make some investments on the defense. And I'm guessing Penix is going to be their guy going into next year.
Yeah, I'm
We'll see
curious
what
to see
happens.
what happens with Cousins.
I think the word on the street is he's going to end up in Cleveland, which is hilarious to me. But we can,
Good luck with that.
good luck with that. Can you imagine a quarterback room of Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, and Jameis Winston?
Oh
Like,
gosh, yes. I want a TV show about that.
yeah, put them on Hard Knocks. Actually, speaking of Hard Knocks, the Panthers and Falcons can be forced to do Hard Knocks next year.
Yeah, there's two other teams. Seattle's one of them, and the other one
Yeah,
is the
Titans. I think it's the
okay.
Titans.
Yeah,
Yeah, because because when I saw that today, I was like, well, the Titans would make sense. They got the number one pick. They, they just fired their general manager. Like, I don't think they're going to make a head coaching change. I think Callahan's safe there, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to a
Lucas
game
Patrick.
Lucas Patrick, current Saint, probably won't be a Saint next year, but that's another story. He present Bears 24, Packers 22. So the Bears finally beat the Packers for the first time in a long time.
6 years.
Yeah,
I think it was 2018 was the last time.
It's been a while. Andy, the Bears fan, could probably tell us better, but he this loss clinched Green Bay, or moved Green Bay down to the 7th seed. So now Green Bay will go into Philadelphia this week. But as I said last week, I don't think that's a bad thing for Green Bay. What is a bad thing is Christian Watson is out for the rest of the year with an ACL. So that's not ideal.
Yeah, he's there. I think he's the real downfield threat. He's kind of what
Yeah.
allows them to stretch the field vertically. That's going to be a problem, I think.
Yes,
for
I
them
talked
going into the
to
playoffs.
I talked to my coworker who's a Packers fan, and he said it's probably going to be Dontravian Wicks' time. And Jaden Reed, obviously, and Romeo Dobbs are still there. Tucker Kraft, who looked like I think he and Love. Looks like Love's okay. Love got banged up in this game. They took him out. They let Malik Willis finish
Seemed
it
like he
out.
hit his funny bone. Was that?
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. I do give the Packers a fighting chance. The other thing I'll say for them, their defense, Jair Alexander's out, but he's been out for a while. But they'll, I think they'll be okay. We'll see. We'll talk about their game this coming up in a little bit, but we'll see. And for the Bears, they won, and that helped the Saints draft pick. So the Saints moved up from 10 to 9 because the Bears won. So thanks for that, Bears. Be interested to see where they go in their coaching search. It looks like Ben Johnson's the betting favorite right now.
Yeah, that seems to be the rumor.
I don't know. So if I was Ben Johnson, so here's your options, right? You could go coach the Bears and have to compete with the Packers, the Lions, and the Vikings, or you could potentially go coach the Jaguars and compete with the Colts, the Titans, and the Texans. I think I know where I'd go, but I don't know.
I don't know if the situation with Balky does not seem
That's true.
like
That's true. Yeah.
anywhere I'd want to
Oh,
get near.
well, I don't know. Ryan Pace at Chicago. I don't know how much better it is, but yeah. Well, we'll see what ends up happening. I think you know who I actually saw as the betting favorite to be the Bears' next head coach.
It's not Ben Johnson.
No, you ready for this?
It's not Mike McCarthy anymore.
No, yeah, I saw that. So that pretty much guarantees McCarthy's going back to Dallas, I guess. That they denied the request to
Chicago.
for Chicago to interview him. I did think that would be interesting because like McCarthy obviously has the history with Green Bay, so I thought that would be interesting if he did go to coach Chicago.
Uh-huh.
No, how about Cliff Kingsbury?
Ooh. I don't know if
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, he and Caleb have a relationship from
Oh, that's right, because they were together at USC.
the USC
Oh, okay.
days.
That's right.
But I do find it interesting that I think he interviewed for the OC job in Chicago last year, and they ended up going with Waldron, or no, with Getsy, Luke Getsy,
Yeah.
who they fired halfway through this season.
Yeah, that worked out well.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll move on here. Another team looking for a head coach, the Jaguars. They closed out their season losing to the Colts 26-23 in overtime. Because why wouldn't this game go into overtime?
True. This game was played this true Jaguar Colt fashion, right? Just a mess.
Yeah, presented by Carl Davis. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just the Colts. No change. They didn't make any changes, right? They kept Ballard, kept Shane
Correct.
Steichen.
Yep. What didn't they move on from? They moved on.
Gus
from
Bradley.
Gus
Bradley. Yeah,
That's
the defensive coordinator.
That was the other one we were thinking of because we were talking about before the show. We were talking about coordinators that have been moved on from. Gus Bradley's the other one, which I think Gus Bradley's. I think his time in the league has run its course unless he has a Dan Quinn-esque self-reflection.
I could see if Pete Carroll ends up getting a job somewhere, he and Gus Bradley go back to the Seattle days. Maybe Pete Carroll throws him a line. But yeah, both of these teams with the Jaguars. I'll save that. We'll talk about potential openings and where the best spots are. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Another opening, Patriots 23, Bills 16, presented by Matt Castle. So Patriots win this game and then fire Joe Mayo because, yeah.
I don't know about this Joe Mayo character. Frankly, he sounds made up.
I just realized that.
You just
in the notes you had Joe Mayo.
Yeah, I did that on purpose, not drive.
You got me. Joe Milton. So listen, somebody's going to call the Patriots about Joe Milton, right? I mean, they have. I mean, after this game, this is ridiculous. What
So I was listening to the Athletic Football Show, and they were talking about how he got discussed in draft. Like in the lead up to the draft, like scouts were like, he can't play football. He's just a bunch of tools thrown together. Right. And like, it's basically all he is. He's not a football player. He just runs around and then throws the ball. And that one play that he had that got called back for holding, right? Like that's Joe Milton. Like it's
okay. So I mean, look, I know the way Bill Simmons described it, because he was not happy about them winning this game. He said the Patriots basically traded down from 1 to 4 and got Jack Bleep in return. That's basically what happened. So
that worked out well for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will say this: the Patriots definitely have their quarterback of the future, Joe Milton.
Trade Drake May for all the picks you can get.
Well, I mean, we talked about it last week. Nick Wright said they should trade him when they had the number 1 pick, draft Travis Hunter and draft Shador, trade Drake May and draft Shador. But I like that idea.
I like that. Yeah, I like this idea.
Let's move on here to your other favorite team, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Brought to you by Jose Cortez.
Jose Cortez, Immaculate Grid legend, NFC East legend,
XFL champion.
Yeah, sure. Well, let us not forget.
Yes.
Eagles 20, Giants 13. So the Giants, another team. Yeah, they suck, but they are not making any changes. Brian Daboll staying, Joe Shane staying. So good for them, I guess. I don't know.
Frank, let's ask Frank what he thinks of the New York Giants decision making here.
Well,
Okay.
it sucks.
No, thanks, Frank. Do you think Frank Costanza were they Giants fans? You think? I know we know George.
They strike me more as the blue collar, Well, no, they're Yankees fans,
right?
I sort of associate Jets and Mets as the blue collar side of this, but like I know Jerry's a Mets fan. Is Jerry a Jets fan?
I have no idea. I know he's more of a baseball guy.
More of a baseball guy.
I know Larry David, it was a Jets fan. I think he quit the Jets though because he couldn't take it anymore.
That's probably better for his health.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know that I have an answer there.
For the Eagles, real quick, I know Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol. We're recording this on Tuesday. They play Sunday afternoon.
Right.
And then Kenny Pickett, I think, got banged up too
against the Cowboys. Yeah, because
Tanner
McKee was the. So yeah, I made fun of Kenny Pickett because like he rolled out and threw a pass and Parsons kind of it's like he's throwing the pass right as Parsons is coming in and Parsons just kind of like lowers his shoulder and gives him like a hit to the side there
a hip check. Yeah.
Well, it's like a shoulder check into the into the sternum. And then like he goes down and then like that was the end of his day. And I was like, really, Kenny, you took one shot from Parsons and that's it for you. And he's out for a week. Yeah. So, it also kind of makes the situation because Jalen Hurts, when he was coming out of that, he had that concussion. You saw the clip of him. He like goes up to the ref and he like gives him a thumbs up, like this is I'm good, and now he's out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, so we'll see how that plays out. We may get to see a Kenny Pickett versus Jordan Love without Christian Watson. That should make for fun viewing.
Sure, the NFL is going to love that.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. Something else the NFL probably loved was Texans 23, Titans 14. Titans lock up the number 1 pick. This was brought to you by Lonnie Johnson Jr., by the way. Mm-hmm. So Texans locked into the 4 seed. Tennessee locks up the number 1 pick. Texans are still going to be one and done with their what is this, the 8th consecutive Saturday afternoon game that they've had?
My favorite meme that I saw about this was that one that was like little bro wanted to buy. I don't remember what the original thing was, but he didn't have money for it, and it's like shows the Texans, and it's like little bro wanted primetime playoff game, but didn't have primetime market share. Sorry, it's Saturday 3:30 for you.
Well, at least because usually that Saturday afternoon game, at least in the past, I think has been on NBC. At least this year, it's on CBS. I don't think it's Romo and Nance. Could you imagine them sitting? Imagine Romo and Nance having a call.
Joe Nance would walk out.
And Jim Nance is from Houston, and he's like, I don't want to call this game.
I remember the one memory I have of the Houston Texans like playoff games, like the one biggest memory was that year that they got up like 21-0 on
Kansas City.
Really,
24-0. That was Deshaun's. That was Deshaun's last stand, really.
Yeah, I remember watching.
Yeah,
big. Yeah, so I remember watching that game and they were up 24-0, and I remember thinking because the way they had gotten up was like it was like 3 fluke plays. So it was like a muffed punt, blown coverage, deep touchdown, and then like something else had gone crazy. And so I remember watching the game. I was like, the Chiefs are going to win this. Like, there's no way they don't fix what's going wrong here.
It was the most flimsy 24-0 lead. Yeah,
you could see it. You could see it was going to unravel like very easily, and it did.
Yeah. Real quick on the Titans, they moved on from their GM today.
Rand Carthen.
How did you say it? They ran Carthen.
They ran Carth off.
They ran Carthen. Yeah. Well, that's a shame. Speaking of the Chiefs, we mentioned their playoff game from years ago against the Texans. They did not come back from this deficit.
They did not. I don't think they were trying very hard to.
They weren't trying very hard. Broncos 38, Chiefs 0. Brought to you by Kyle Orton, because who else could bring you this game?
Absolutely.
So Broncos win. They clinched the 7 seed. Bo Nix was very good in this game. But you know what? We talked about the Bengals. I mean, I would have liked to see the Bengals in the playoffs, but look, just beat the Patriots week 1 and you'd have been in the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't feel too bad for them just based on like they did this. You did this to yourself. Like you only have yourself to blame in this situation. This wasn't a. I mean, I know that the Chiefs had the 1 seed locked up. They don't have anything to play for anyway. They would have done this regardless of the situation. I remember. So I turned these games on because. So the 2 games that were being broadcast were this game and then the Dolphins game, Jets-Dolphins. And so I turned these on because I was curious about, I was like, maybe it's a division game. Maybe something will happen. Maybe this will get interesting. I turned this on and it was 14-0, or it was, the Broncos were up big, fast. And so I was like, maybe I'll just go do something a little better with my afternoon. And then the Jets-Dolphins game wasn't much better. I think that the highlight of that game, I don't know if you want to go ahead or do you have one more thing on this one?
What I was going to say is, thanks to this game, the Saints were not the only team to be shut out this season.
Oh yeah. So
thank you, Chiefs, for that.
Chiefs
also,
and the Saints.
I will mention the Chiefs did not reach 30 points at any game this season.
That's right. Weren't there only like 2 other teams that had not done that?
Yeah. Well,
I don't. The Giants did though, because they beat the Colts.
Right, 40. They got to 40 points on us, or 30. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They definitely got to 30. But like there was a stat. There was a graphic of like records for teams when scoring less than 30 points, and for the Chiefs it was just their record because they hadn't scored the 30 points. So moving on to the game you just mentioned, Jets 32, Dolphins 20. This was presented by Sean Ryan. Yeah, so Rodgers gets his 500 touchdown. Hopefully we never see him again. Somebody on Saints Twitter proposed a Derek Carr for Aaron Rodgers trade. And I was like, I'm good.
Do you want me to make me hate myself more?
I'll pretend I didn't hear that. Yeah.
So my comment was, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers will be back next season, but what I do know is that he will spend as long as possible dragging out the decision so that we have to talk about him.
Right. Yeah, and their coaching search, they sent out, it was the Jaguars. I was say the Jets. The thing about the Jets, I kind of feel bad for them because they interviewed Vrabel, and then like 2 days later, the Patriots fired Mayo because basically like the word on the street is that Vrabel interviewed with the Jets just to get the Patriots
kind of speed things along here.
Right.
Like flirting with the other woman. So
exactly. Yeah. So, and then for the Dolphins, they didn't make any changes. McDaniel's coming back. They kept their GM, Chris Greer. I don't know, man. I think McDaniel's seat's going to be pretty hot next year. We'll obviously see what will happen with Tua.
This feels like this is your last chance sort of situation. Like you have one more year. We'll run it back with what we can, maybe with or without Tyreek Hill. depending on how that goes.
Well, apparently today I read that Tyreek sat down with the higher ups and everything's kumbaya right now. But who knows? Maybe Tyreek Hill will be a Cowboy next year.
Yeah, I
That's
saw
all,
the betting
saw that
odds were.
saw that on yeah. So good luck with that, buddy.
All right.
Let's move on to Seahawks 30, Rams 25. This is presented by Will Herring.
Not
Yeah,
red
so
herring.
not red herring. Yeah, Rams rested everybody. I don't know. Like I get it. By the way, real quick before we get to the Rams, Seahawks. We talked about this last week. If you told Seahawks fans at the beginning of the season, "Hey, you're going to win 10 games," I think they would have taken that.
Most likely, yes.
Because I mean, first year head coach, you know, Gino kind of.
What was their record last year?
They made the playoffs last year, did they not?
I think. Yeah, I don't know. Like I was trying to think about this earlier. I was like, did they get
Seahawks 2023?
3?
They were no, they did not make the playoffs. They were third in the West. They were 9-8. So they were a game better.
They improved.
They're a game better. Now, part of that, again, we talked about with San Francisco taking a step back. But you know, Gino, I thought acquitted himself pretty well this year. Had some ups and downs, but the thing about Seattle feels like every week they were in games. Like they didn't like they gave Detroit a run for their money early in the season, if I remember correctly, on like a Monday night game. That was the Monday night game. Goff went like 18 for 18.
Yes,
and like so, you know, yeah, I think the Seahawks don't have anything to hang their head about. And also they had a lot of injuries on defense too.
Yeah, there was a period where they really didn't have like any of their front seven.
Yeah, because I was going to bring this up later, but like looking at non-playoff teams that maybe will be contenders next year, you got to probably put Seattle in that category. I think they're going to. I mean, depending on what happens in the offseason, obviously, but
yeah, and I think I will say I do think maybe moving on from Ryan Grubb was the right decision, because it seemed like there was a lot of their offense was put on Geno at certain points, and it was basically which is kind of the big complaint I have about the Cowboys offense at times, where it's like, Dak, go do something.
Yeah. And that so you bring that up. So they'll be looking for a new offensive coordinator. Kenneth Walker missed a good bit of time too, to injury. I know Zach Charbonnet had a pretty good season. And then for the Rams, just real quick, I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Vikings this week, but
that feels like the game that is most up in the air,
right? Because it's a Monday night, right? So you get that extra day. The Vikings are coming off probably their worst showing of the season, or one of their worst showings of the season against Detroit, at least from an offensive perspective. Well, I would say a red zone offense perspective for sure. We'll talk about that more.
We'll talk about that.
But yeah, so let's move on here. Chargers 34, Raiders 20, presented by Jared Cook. So the Chargers now get the coveted 5th seed in the AFC. That means they get to play Houston in the first round. So congratulations, Chargers. Although, you know, we talked about this before. It would be so Texans for them to just beat the Chargers Saturday, you know, like
I want to say last year going into the wild card round, the Browns were favored going into Houston as well. And
absolutely.
That being said, the Browns were trotting out Joe Flacco at quarterback.
How dare you disrespect Joe Flacco?
The Chargers will not be trotting Joe Flacco out at quarterback.
No, they will. Justin Herbert's coming in. Harbaugh's got him, and we could get. I think I was trying to think of this. So, if the Chargers win, they would either play I don't think they can play the Ravens in the division round. They would have to. The Hard Bowl would have to happen in the conference championship. I don't think you could have it in the division round because the 3 seed would either play the 2 or the 7.
Yeah, because
Well, I don't know, but you. So okay, well we could go, but I think if the 7, so if the Broncos beat the Bills, they play the Chiefs. That's how it would happen. Yeah,
it would
the
have
Broncos
to.
would have to beat. Yeah, the Broncos would have to beat the Bills in order for the Hard Bowl potentially to happen. So probably so if it's going to happen, it would be more likely in the AFC Championship game. But hey, look,
Right.
for the Chargers, this is the reason you hired Harbaugh, right? You want to
Mhm.
get so. And for the Raiders, they just fired Antonio Pierce today.
So
So
that's not why you hired Antonio Pierce.
look, they could be in the Vrabel business. Tom Brady apparently is going to have a lot of input into the next coach. So
you gotta hope that him being there at least adds some stability to that franchise because the problem is that there's no consistency. They change course like every 5 seconds.
yeah,
You start signing coaches to 10-year deals and then they're gone within 3 years. Like
yeah.
there's got to be they've got to have some sort of stability at some point.
Well, and I kind of feel like they just elevated Pierce because he got the interim job last year, finished
They
out the
played
season,
well. Yeah,
played
played
well,
strong.
and they didn't want to repeat the mistake that they made with forget his name, but the guy that they
Rick Bisaccia,
Versace, yeah. So like they really
Cowboys
should have,
coaching legend.
yeah, they really should have promoted him after Gruden, after they fired Gruden after all that, and went with McDaniels, and yeah, we all know what happened there. So, um, yeah, I mean, the Raiders definitely have an uphill climb because obviously they're in, I would say, the toughest, maybe second toughest division in football. So
Uh-huh.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Be interesting to see there. And then let's close out the late slate here. Cardinals 47, 49ers 24. This is presented by Cowboy legend Alfred Morris. Um, yeah, I mean, nobody, nothing to play for here.
Nothing to
Josh
see here,
Dobbs.
folks.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs was in at quarterback for the 49ers, right?
He did not have his revenge.
No, he did not.
The Pastronaut.
Yeah, so both these teams will, I guess, look to be. I've heard. Have you heard about these Kyler Murray getting traded rumors?
I have not.
I've seen some rumblings on the internet about him possibly getting traded. I mean,
This isn't like NBA Sintel type
no. I
sources
mean, this
where
is.
it's
Well, I don't know why the Cardinals would do that because, like, even if they were to trade him to, let's say, the Giants, and maybe they get the Giants' first round pick in return, you're still probably not going to be in position to draft a quarter. Like, are you gonna roll out Clayton Tune next year? Like, is that your strategy? I do
sure, why
know.
not?
I do know the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals is getting some head coaching interviews. I think Drew Putzik, I believe is his name.
Mhm.
But yeah, so and for the 49ers, yeah, we talked about just the injury history. I'll be interesting to keep an eye on the Shanahan situation. I know there's been talk of him maybe getting traded.
Mhm.
So be
Yeah,
interesting.
that seems weird to me. I know there's talk about it, but like, is there
Yeah,
what's the motive driving that? Like, you had a down season where a bunch of people
yeah,
got hurt. Like,
I
just
don't know.
seems
I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just think it'd be
frankly, it
interesting.
sounds made up.
Frankly, it does. I mean, the Bears, right? Going back to the Bears, Ryan Pace, their GM, did say trading for a coach is on the table. So, for what that's worth. All right, let's close it out here. Last game of the year, last regular season game of the year, Sunday Night Football, Lions 31, Vikings 9, presented by Eric Frampton. Don't call him Peter Frampton. Uh, Lions get the 1 seed. I like a lot of people, I was really disappointed in the Vikings. I thought the Vikings would come out, and they seem to move the ball pretty well between the 20s, and then they get in the red zone, and
To me, this was more about the Lions' performance on defense than
yes, yeah,
the Vikings' performance on offense, because like you said, they moved the ball, and then you would see those shots that after they couldn't score, couldn't get the ball into the red zone, you'd see the drop back, and you'd see the line was starting to collapse, and then like all of his receiver options were covered. Like there wasn't very, like, they took away the clear windows for him to throw, and I think he just had to hold it a little too long, and that's kind of where he's still probably going to have his bad moments where he needs to kind of work out a structure.
this is Darnold you're talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly. And so I think that the game was closer than the final score indicated, I thought, because like for the first
Yeah.
3 quarters it was neck and neck. The Lions kind of kept sort of pecking away at that Vikings defense until finally everything broke. It seemed like the Vikings basically sold out on trying to keep the Lions and kind of like from just being able to run on first down to set up easy second downs so that they could get into their play action trick stuff.
Yep.
And then like they had moments like where Van Ginkel pulled
Oh gosh, yeah.
a Sheldon Brown like hit on
Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs. I was watching that play unfold, and it's one of those plays where you see the hit coming before it actually happens. And I just like go ooh at the the TV, like right as that like happens, and I text you.
Yeah,
all
when you texted me, I forget exactly how you phrased it, but it was
I
something
said,
like,
"Good Lord."
or you said I screamed out loud or something when,
Yes.
and I laughed. I laughed at that because I was like, I just imagining you watching the game and you just like release an exclamation when that
It was,
happened.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And then he's had 2 pick sixes this year, and he
Yeah.
should have had a third. It hit him in the hands, and he just
Yeah.
couldn't corral it, and that probably could have turned the game. So
What
like
was the one? Was it the Giants when they played the Giants? Daniel Jones, he did that to Daniel Jones. Like Jones dropped back and tried to throw a screen to his side, and he just stepped in front of it.
He just takes like a perfect angle. When he sees it coming, he takes that like sort of angle where it just cuts off any chance you have of throwing the pass. And so like the Vikings defense came with a good game plan, but it felt like Detroit just sort of kept poking at things, trying different approaches, and then finally, like, one cut. They've got one play where they've got a couple of plays where just Jahmyr Gibbs is able to get to that corner and then outrace the safeties in the middle of the field to the end zone, and then that in the fourth quarter the dam sort of broke because the Vikings couldn't get anything in the red zone, and just Aaron Glenn just deserves a lot of credit for what he was able to do with what's been very beat up Detroit defense.
Well, and that's where I was going to say is, speaking as a fan of a team that is bringing Aaron Glenn in for an interview for a head coaching job. And, you mentioned it, like the Lions defense was decimated by injuries this year. Mm-hmm. And for him to keep that ship afloat, as it were, and again, speaking as the fan of a team that had a number of injuries ourselves, and actually the injuries was used as an excuse when our coach was fired.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it definitely came away from this game with I'd be happy with Aaron Glenn being my head coach kind of thing,
It's funny. It won't happen now because the Cowboys have basically, I guess we're pretty much leaning toward McCarthy's back. But I was listening to Locked On Cowboys today, and they talked about one of the other dark horse candidates would be Aaron Glenn because he's familiar with the Cowboys, one of those like familiar names who's been with the team before. And then the Dan Campbell has a good relationship with Jerry Jones, so he'd be
Yeah.
able to kind of vouch for him there.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron Glenn's got 4 interviews lined up, and 3 of the 4 teams he played for: the Jets, the Jags, and the Saints. And then I think he's interviewing with who's the other team he's interviewing with?
Not Chicago.
Yeah, no, Chicago. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, I think he's definitely going to get a job. The challenge for Dan Campbell next year is going to be who do you get to replace him and potentially Ben Johnson.
Right.
So my biggest thing, I guess I'll just kind of say this now for the Saints is if you're bringing in a head coach, like okay, who's on your staff, right? So like if I'm bringing Aaron Glenn as my defensive coordinator, who's my offense or as my head coach, who's my offensive coordinator going to be?
Right.
If I bring in Joe Brady as my head coach, who's my defensive coordinator going to be? So that's really where I'm interested to see. So Lions clinched the 1 seed. They will have a much needed bye this week. Looks like David Montgomery is going to be back for them.
Yeah, I saw that. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting him back this early.
Yeah, so good for them. So they'll have Sonic and Knuckles back in the division round. So real quick before we move on here, I'm just going to go quickly through the draft order for the non-playoff teams. So there's 18 teams that did not make the playoffs. The draft order, and we should point out too, no one has traded their first round pick as of yet.
Correct.
So every team owns their first round pick for 2025.
Last year we had no trades in the first round. Wasn't that
part
of this?
No, the Bears. Remember the Bears had.
Oh, that's right.
Bears.
What I mean was on draft night there were no draft day trades that I can think of.
I thought there was. I thought there was a trade.
Maybe I'm just completely missing. Maybe I made that up.
Yeah, because I mean, so the Bears had 2 first round picks because of the Panthers trade, and that's how they got Caleb Williams. But yeah, so all right, picks 1 through 18 are as follows. Picking number 1, the Tennessee Titans. Number 2 is the Cleveland Browns. Number 3, the New York Giants. Number 4, much to the chagrin of their fans, the New England Patriots. Number 5, Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 7, the New York Jets. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers. Number 9, my favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Number 10, the Chicago Bears. 11 is the San Francisco 49ers. Number 12 is Brandon's Dallas Cowboys. Number 13, the Miami Dolphins. 14, Indianapolis Colts. 15, Atlanta Falcons. 16, Arizona Cardinals. 17, Cincinnati Bengals. And finally, rounding out the top 18, the Seattle Seahawks. So we should point out the losers of this weekend's divisional round, so the 6 teams that lose this week, will be placed in spots 19 to 24 based on record, and then also the strength of schedule tiebreaker if needed. So just keep an eye out for whoever loses this weekend. That'll be your picks 19 to 24. Real quick on the head coaching vacancies, we have 6 openings at the moment. The Bears, the Patriots, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Saints, and as of today, the Raiders. We were talking about this before we turned the mics on. I think you said you read an article in the Ringer where they ranked the openings. Now, obviously, the Raiders opening wasn't available yet, but they ranked the other 5. And did they have the Bears number 1?
No, no. The Patriots were number 1 because of the fact that they had Drake May.
Right. Yeah, so I think Bears and Patriots are probably your top 2. You can switch the order just because of
the quarterback situation.
The quarterback situation. I really find it surprising that the ranking I saw had the Jets ahead of the Jaguars. I guess with the Jets, if you know for sure the Rodgers fiasco is over, then maybe, but I would think you'd want to be the Jaguars because you have Trevor Lawrence, but that's just
Yeah, the only problem going to Jacksonville is that you got the Balky situation.
That's
He
true.
he appears to have wormed his way in pretty deep there.
Yeah, that's true. And then obviously the Saints are the least desirable, which I'm not surprised. I mean, our cap situation sucks. Derek Carr is probably going to be on the team, and he's not taking a pay cut because he's put too much good tape out there. Brandon,
I know.
how could we watch Derek Carr's tape and not be impressed?
Yeah, how could we not want to pay him more money? If anything,
What an idiot.
what is?
Well, let me ask you, as a non Saints fan,
Mm-hmm.
would you rather be the coach of the Saints or the Raiders at this point?
Oh, well, I will say
Okay,
if I'm the coach of the Raiders, I do get to go live in Vegas.
it's
So that
true.
that that's a perk.
And you
Uh,
have Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers is there. You have Max Crosby there,
You have Well, maybe if
maybe.
depending on.
The Neither of
I
those
feel
situations seems particularly palatable. Like, what's
yeah.
I guess I would take the blank slate of what the Raiders have at quarterback over having to be saddled with Carr at this
And
moment. That's
with
that's
the
about
w- with the Raiders being the sixth pick, if you do want to maybe potentially go a quarterback in the draft, you probably have a better opportunity with the
right.
Raiders
And
because you have the sixth pick. Then
yeah, and if not, you can probably wait another year and try to build around it so that once you do try to draft a quarterback, maybe next
I,
season, you're able to you've got some more pieces around him.
I will say O'Connell at times this year has looked serviceable.
Hmm.
Um, you know, uh,
O'Connell's a guy that I just say is like he's a serviceable backup, and that's probably
right.
his ceiling.
Yeah, I think the Saints and Raiders are probably in about the same position in terms of I could see both teams going into next year with the quarterbacks with either like the Saints could just say, look, we're just going to build around Spencer Rattler and try to see what we can do. Again, a lot of this depends on who the coach is going to be. I feel like the Saints are going to end up with I don't want to say the short end of the stick. I'm almost to the point like there was a rumor. So I'll talk about the David Shaw situation here in a second, but there was a rumor. One of the names that somebody threw out was Pete Carroll, and like I actually wouldn't mind that because Pete Carroll could come in, coach the Saints for maybe a year or two, kind of get
Hmm.
their, just kind of tread water with them, and then just get them to a point where like maybe he retires and then another coach of some renown wants to come in. That's the thing with the Saints right now is like I feel like they just have the stink on them. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
so. I mean, look. I hope. I
Stink
hope.
eye.
Yeah, evil eye, crook eye. Um, I don't know. I think, but with the Saints, I mentioned David Shaw. I don't know if you saw this. So Jane Slater, who is as far as I know, a reporter of some renown, works
Hmm.
for the NFL Network, I believe. She reported yesterday that the Saints were going to interview or request to interview David Shaw, who's the former Stanford head coach,
Uh-huh. Yes.
who's Andrew Luck's head coach, and now works with the Broncos in a front office capacity. And then about 3 hours later, Nick Underhill, who writes for NOLA.com, NOLAfootball.com, and has reported on the Saints for years, basically tweeted out that the Saints not only were not going to interview David Shaw, that they never intended to interview David Shaw. So I got excited because I'm like, hey, because I mean, I've talked about it on the show before. Like, I just wanted the Saints to do an extensive search. Now, since then, they have released some of the names. Like, they've put in requests for, we talked about Aaron Glenn, we talked about Joe Brady, but they've also, there was talk of them maybe interviewing Matt Nagy. There was talk of them interviewing, Gosh, now I can't remember. Mike Kafka, who's the Giants' assistant head coach.
Not Franz Kafka,
No, not
author of
Kafka.
Metamorphosis.
No. Um, well, you pull out some names, man.
So,
I swear.
so there was so we read that story. We read that short story, and do you know that story?
No.
We read it in English class and somewhere, and it's about a short story about a guy who wakes up to find he's been turned into a dung beetle.
Okay.
And so that's what I remember. But there's also a TV show I used to watch called Home Movies, and one of they would make all these like films that the kids would direct, and one of the films that they did was like a rock opera about Franz Kafka, and so so that's sorry. I'm sorry for derailing this, but
No, you're
when you
good.
said Mike Kafka, Franz Kafka is the first name that came to mind.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking to see if I could figure out who else the Saints
Yeah,
looked
for some
at.
reason I thought you had sent me the list, but I do not seem to have it in my
Well, so they're obviously going to interview Darren Rizzi.
right.
And we talked about Aaron Glenn. I think I saw maybe Brian Flores was on the list. But
Kellen Moore wasn't. Oh, okay. I found the one you
Kellen
sent
Moore.
me.
That's who it was.
Kellen
Yeah, that's
Moore,
it.
Anthony
Kellen.
Weaver.
Yeah, Anthony
Aaron
Weaver.
Glenn
That was
Joe-
the name. Yeah, that was the name. So Anthony Weaver is the current defensive coordinator for the Dolphins.
Okay.
He's gotten some buzz. Kellen Moore, like I would kind of be fine with any of those names, honestly. Maybe not Flores, but I again I just want a coach that has a plan, that has some kind of strategy, and I also want a coach that the general manager is going to let him pick his staff. I don't know
Right.
if you saw this, but there was reports of Mickey Loomis wanting certain coaches on the staff currently to stay with the Saints. It's like, no, we can't. No, we're not doing this. Like, you hire a coach, you let him do his job, and that's what we're doing. Like, we're not.
As a Cowboys fan, I'm all too familiar with this.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. But we'll see. And then I'll just quickly mention general manager vacancies. The Titans, we mentioned, let their general manager go today, and then the Jets. So the Jets are looking for a coach and a GM. I hear Rex Ryan interviewed today.
Why don't the Jets just use a Madden simulator for their general manager position?
Yeah, Rex Ryan feels like he's gonna get the job. Good luck with that, Rex.
Good luck.
Godspeed. All right. With all that being said, now got a cold front came through Houston, came through Texas, got some snow up in Dallas, I think, right now.
Yeah, it's coming. I think it's coming soon. I think my parents are actually supposed to get some snow and ice this week too.
Yeah. So, all that to say, I think I feel a draft.
I feel a draft.
I feel a draft. Let's change tables.
Get out of here. We have a booth.
All right, Brandon. So we're going to draft the 6 wild card games. And I was thinking about this. Would you be opposed for this draft to not go in snake fashion?
Okay. Just go back and forth.
Just go back and forth. Because, again, there's only 6 games, so we'll each draft 3.
Yeah.
And we'll just kind of draft these in terms of
I would say most exciting, most intriguing.
Entertainment value. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I
think given the fact that you won 2 of our 3 competitions from the pick'em,
you will let me go first.
I'll defer to you for the first, or you have the option. You've won the toss. You can either choose to pick first, or you can defer.
I think I'll defer. I'll defer to you. I'll let you go first.
Okay. I feel like there's an easy, like the first pick here is pretty easy. And so I'm going to go ahead and take that off the board. I'm going to take the Monday night matchup, Vikings-Rams.
All right.
This feels like the one where most likely to go either way. Like most likely feels like more of a coin flip than the others.
Yeah.
And also you've got two. You've got the Flores defense. You've got two offenses that are Kevin O'Connell's been a good offensive coach, and then of course we know what McVay does. The Rams are back to full strength offensively, so I feel like there should be some fireworks in this one. And just kind of interested to see how the Vikings bounce back from what happened on Sunday night.
Yep. Yeah, I think ESPN's probably going to be pretty happy with this game falling in their lap, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go. So for my first pick, I will go with the Saturday night game, Steelers Ravens.
Okay.
On paper, I know this probably looks like it's going to be, you know, a one-sided affair, let's say. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's Steelers Ravens. You never know, right? They usually are. This, I guess, Steelers Ravens 3, I guess, is how we should
Correct.
phrase this. The rubber match. We'll, we'll talk about it more when we preview it here, but yeah, I think your the game you picked was kind of the obvious choice, but I'll go with a classic AFC North battle. So what are you going to take for your next pick?
All right, I'm going to take the Sunday night game, a matchup of our division rivals here. I'm going to take Commies Bucks.
There you go.
Just feels like this is also another one where I kind of don't know what to expect. It feels like they're both from both sides. We might expect a little bit of some offensive fireworks.
Yeah, I think this will probably be the highest. I would take the over in this game, probably.
Yeah.
Of all the games on the board, I'd probably take the Vikings Rams too. Maybe that might have some fireworks depending on how things shape out. Okay, so for me, my next pick, I'll go Broncos Bills. I think the Broncos can keep this interesting.
Yeah, that's actually I'm curious about this game. I feel like Denver has a chance. Like I don't know I don't know that I would think Buffalo's going to run away with this. Or I can see it playing out that way.
I would say they have a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
The Broncos had a game earlier this year, and I remember when we previewed it, I was like, I feel like the Broncos could win this game, and then got to the game and Nick's had one of his worst games of the year. I'm trying to remember. Let me see. It wasn't the Chiefs. It wasn't the Chiefs game. Nope, that's the wrong. Give me 1 second here. Maybe it was. Oh, it was the Ravens. It was when they played the Ravens.
Oh yeah,
I remember thinking like
they got murdered.
But I remember going into that game, I was like, well, maybe they can hang tough with them, and yeah, they ended up being one sided. But this is, you know what? In the playoffs, it's one game, and you get one or two plays, kind of.
If it bounces your way,
yeah. So
things can happen.
Well, we'll see. All right, so your final pick here for.
All right, I'm going to leave you.
I know which one you're going to leave me with. I think I know which one you're going to leave me with.
That's the easy one. So I'll take Packers Eagles here. Hoping this is the game where I'm hoping that the underdog can pull the upset.
I would say of the two 7 versus 2 matchups, this one would be more likely, I would think, to have the upset. And honestly, I kind of picked Broncos Bills to kind of force you to pick this game because the Eagles were in it. If I'm being honest.
I see how it is.
So that will leave me with the first game of the weekend, Chargers Texans.
The appetizer, as it were.
Yeah, look, we'll talk about it more in a minute, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Texans pull this one out.
They are playing at home.
And for what it's worth, I know it was Tennessee, but they did play pretty well this past week against the Titans. By the way, we didn't talk about this in the game, but did I send you that clip of the Levis?
With the money thing,
Yeah,
and then it immediately turns into the defensive touchdown.
yeah. Which, by the way, on that defensive touchdown, and I can't remember who the Texans' defensive lineman was, but that guy does a front flip into the end zone with another human being holding on to the ball at the same time.
the, the,
It was
I,
who was it? Oh, it's Barnett, Derek Barnett. I think it was. I think that's
is
who it
that
was.
former Eagle, Derek Barnett,
Yeah, I think so.
out of Tennessee.
He does. So he has the ball, and then I think it's Nicole Westbrook
Akine.
Akine is like trying to strip him,
Uh-huh.
and he's like right at like the 1 yard line, and he does a front flip. Barnett does a front flip into the end zone with Akine like hanging on him. So
The,
yeah,
you
shout
know,
out to him.
I am a little. I will say I'm a little sad that the Titans will have the number 1 pick and that they'll be moving on from Will Levis, because he is just a joy to watch, because it's always something. There's always something
Yeah.
going on in those games.
Well, I mean, uh, you say, I mean, yeah, they're going to be moving on. I don't know. He'll probably end up still with the Titans, but obviously as a backup, I don't know. Well, we'll
Yeah.
see.
We'll see.
Somebody's going to take a chance on him. I
Oh,
would imagine.
absolutely.
But we'll see. All right. So just to recap real quick here. So I went with the three AFC. Oh, we went AFC NFC.
Oh, we did end it up. I didn't even realize
I
that.
didn't realize that. I've got the three AFC games: Steelers, Ravens, Broncos, Bills, Chargers, Texans, and Brandon, you've got Vikings, Rams, Commies, Bucks, Packers, Eagles. So
Yep.
yeah, how about that?
AFC NFC split.
All right, let's move on to the divisional round preview here. So again, 6 games, sensational 6 games here. We should mention 2 teams on a bye, the number 1 seeds. The Kansas City Chiefs, their bye is brought to you by Patrick Mahomes, appropriately. And the Detroit Lions, the number 1 seed in the NFC, thereby brought to you by legend Barry Sanders, who I don't know how close they never got to a Super Bowl with Barry, but who knows? Maybe this year they can.
I think they won one playoff game with him.
Was it against the Cowboys?
It was against the Cowboys.
I was going to say,
And the following year, the Cowboys began their run of 3 Super Bowls in 4 years.
no, well, that would have been, was that Scott Mitchell, probably,
Yes.
or it was either him or Eric. Don't
Eric
call me
Kramer?
Cosmo. Don't call me Cosmo Kramer. Yeah.
I want to say I actually do think it was Eric Kramer now that I
Yeah.
think about it.
He played for a while, Eric Kramer. I looked him up the other day for something, and I was surprised to see how long he stuck around the NFL. But let's move on here. So the Saturday, as we said, the usual Texans Invitational here, Chargers at Texans. This has been presented by the late great Jacoby Jones. Texans are getting 2.5 points. These teams have not met yet this season, so this is their first time meeting each other. Looks like you and I are both going to lay the 2.5 with the Chargers here. Just going to play it smart.
This, of course, this will be the chance, like you said, or the Texans actually just come out and
I just
blow the doors off.
I just have a funny feel. Well, because the thing is, like, think about the Texans. Like, they really haven't had to play a meaningful game in like a month, right? I mean, like, we talked about it on the show throughout the season. Like, they kind of were winning this division by default. Like, I mean, they, so we'll see. I mean, obviously Stroud has regressed this year, definitely.
The offensive line's bad. They're missing.
Yep.
They're missing 2 of their top 3 receivers too.
Yep.
So that doesn't help. I mean, I still like if their defense maybe is able to just keep San Diego in check, maybe that, like, their
Yeah.
their route to winning this game is via their defense. It feels like.
Well, that and what I was going to say is a heavy dose of Joe Mixon.
Yep.
If
They I was going to say if they played that Christmas Day game like they thought they got points for having Beyonce perform.
right, yeah, yeah, that was bad.
It was.
I hope Netflix got their money's worth out of that. So yeah, we're both going to lay the 2.5 with the Chargers there. All right,
And
Saturday.
did we mention who was brought to you?
Yes, late
Jacoby,
great Jacoby Jones. Yeah,
rest in peace.
rest in peace. Amazon Prime Video presents the Saturday night game here. Steelers at Ravens. Ravens are laying 9.5. This one brought to you by Bam Morris. These two teams obviously have met twice already as division rivals. In Week 11, the Steelers won 18-16, and in Week 16, the Ravens got their win back 34-17. So this is the rubber match, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we're both laying the points here as well. Yeah, I just don't trust the Steelers' offense here.
It seems like speaking of regressed,
right.
They feel like one, and it feels like George Pickens has gone back off the deep end again.
Yeah,
like if he cares, maybe if he plays like he cares, maybe they have a chance. But it hasn't felt like they played the Ravens to a 2-point win in that first matchup, and it hasn't felt like the Steelers lately have had that same sort of like defensive fire that's actually kept them in these sort of games. And so it just feels like there are two teams going in different directions right now.
Yeah, and the Ravens just feel like a team on a mission a little bit. I think Derrick Henry, I don't know if you saw the video of when they called him in to tell him he made the Pro Bowl, and he was like, all right, cool. Just like, all right. And so
knew that was coming.
Yeah, back to business. Yeah, I would say I'll be interested to see if maybe the Steelers have some design plays for Justin Fields to maybe get him involved a little bit more in the offense. But, again, it's the playoffs. You kind of have to
pull out all the tricks.
All the tricks, yeah.
I really look forward to the discourse if the Ravens lose this game, because they'll be on Lamar. It will be ugly.
Also with the Steelers, I'll just mention there's been rumblings about Tomlin being available maybe for trade. I don't believe it, but listen, I hear Steelers fans who are like, all Tomlin does, we don't ever have a losing record, but we don't win any playoff games. Listen, guys, I would kill for that. Okay. Like you're talking to, like, I've had to watch Dennis Allen be my coach for the last 2.5 years. Okay. So don't come at me with your,
can't get us over the hump.
All Tomlin does is, not have a losing record for 20 years or whatever. All right, let's move on to Sunday here. So I don't know if you noticed this. The 3 AFC games are in a row, and then it's 3 NFC games in a row.
Oh, kind of like our draft, really.
Kind of like our draft, yeah. So maybe that's why I had that in the back of my mind here. Sunday early game, Broncos at Bills. Bills are laying 8.5. This one presented by Von Miller. These two teams have not met this season as of yet. I'm going to lay the 8.5 with the Bills. You kind of alluded to this when we did our draft a minute ago. You're going to take the points with the Broncos. You feel like they can maybe keep this one.
Yeah, I like their defense. I think Buffalo's defense is probably what puts me on this side. Is like I feel like there's a way for Denver to move the ball here. They've got Peyton, who's getting the most out of Bo Nix here. It just feels like there's an opportunity for, like, if nothing else, maybe they're down 14 late and get like a garbage time touchdown to backdoor cover, like something like that. I can see the Bills blowing this game open and blowing the Broncos out, but I can also see a world where they just let the Broncos hang around too long and the their defense isn't able to get enough stops.
Yeah, and another thing in the playoffs, sometimes the team that is favored comes out a little tight. You know, and again, all it takes is a couple plays here and there to kind of shift momentum. So we'll
Some
see.
funny bounces.
Funny bounces. I'm going to stick with the Bills. I think that I feel like they're kind of on a mission. You know, they're gonna try their damnedest to get to the Super Bowl. I should mention real quick before we move on to the next game, for those that are not familiar. So the way this works, obviously the 1 seed has a bye, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. They do not reseed. Well, they don't reseed these teams. What happens is whoever the lowest seeded team remaining after this week in each conference plays the number 1 seed next week, and then the other 2 teams play each other. So, for example, if the Broncos were to beat the Bills, by virtue of them being the 7th seed, they would be the lowest seed team remaining. They would go on to play the Chiefs next week, and the winner of the 2 Saturday games would play each other. If the Bills win, then they would play as the 2 seed. They would play whoever the lower seeded team is that comes out of Saturday's games, and then the Bills would play the highest seeded team from the Saturday games. The Chiefs would play the lowest seeded team. So
Right. So the one team that they would not be able to play is the 7th seed. Wait, no, I mean the so they're playing the 7th seed this week, so they couldn't play the 6th seed next week.
Correct. Yeah. So if the Bills win, then basically the Chiefs would play either the Steelers or the winner of Chargers Texans.
Right.
If the Broncos win, then the winner of Steelers Ravens plays the winner of Texans Chargers.
Yes, and the Broncos would go on to Kansas City.
And the Broncos would go to Kansas City. Yep. All right, moving on here. Another 7 versus 2 matchup. This time in the NFC. Packers at Eagles. Eagles are laying 4.5. This one brought to you by the late great Reggie White, the Minister of Defense. These 2 teams met way back in Week 1 in Brazil. Eagles won 34-29. That was the game with the terrible turf.
Yep.
And Jordan Love got injured, and I don't remember the circumstances because, I mean, if you look at the score, I mean, it was a 1-score game. Did the Packers score? I don't remember how it ended up, but
I can't remember how it. Yeah, I can't remember because it ended with Love getting hurt, like at the
that's
very
right.
end.
That's
And
right.
I think,
That's right.
yeah, and it was just ugly. I just remember like there were wide receivers were running wide open because the turf was so bad that like defensive backs
Yeah.
trying to keep up with them couldn't cut anywhere.
So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the 4.5 of the Packers.
I'm gonna play the jinx. I'm gonna take Eagles minus 4.5.
Question for you: if the we talked about if the Ravens lose on Saturday, if the Eagles lose this game, how much trouble do you think Sirianni's in?
He's in a world of hurt.
I mean,
yeah, you gotta figure at that point they're probably in trouble.
They were talking about firing him earlier this season when they started 2-2 or whatever it was.
Right.
And they got boat raced by the Tampa Bay. So yeah, I'd be very interested to see what happens if they lose this game, especially to a Packers team that we've already talked about will be without Christian Watson. Their defense is got some injuries, but I mean, this is definitely look. The 7th seed in the NFC, the Packers are how many games did they win this year? 11.
Yep.
So I mean,
they're in the NFC North.
Yeah. So this is not your typical 7th-seeded team here.
Yeah, and I will say that I think I was looking at something earlier, and they were talking about the Eagles' defense, and was it the Eagles' defense or no? The Eagles' offense have faced like the easiest schedule of defenses this year based on DVOA. Like their schedule adjusted numbers were like middle of the pack instead of elite, basically.
Okay. I will say I think the key to this game is going to be Josh Jacobs. I think if the Packers can get him going and
Uh-huh.
kind of, win the time of possession battle, and don't force Love to have to don't make it to where Love has to win the game.
Right.
Then I think
You
the
need to
Packers will
stay
be
on schedule.
stay on schedule. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Sunday night game. Commanders at Bucks. Bucks are laying 3. This is presented by DJ Swearinger. These two
Immaculate Grid
teams,
legend.
Immaculate Grid legend. These two teams also met in Week 1. Bucks won that one 37-20. Do you know that this was the largest margin of defeat for the Commanders all season? Was Week 1?
Oh, I did not know that.
I heard that today on. I didn't validate it, but I heard it somewhere. I think it was on Rich Eisen's show. They were talking about this game. I'm going to lay the points with the Bucks -3. You're going to take 3 with the Commanders.
Yeah, and this is more. I think this is a little bit more of a vote of no confidence in the Buccaneers defense. Like they've had their moments where they've just kind of let teams run through them. I mean Rico Dowdle was running through them pretty easily when they played Sunday night. The Saints in the first half, were moving it pretty well. So I think there's an opportunity. This and we talked about this earlier, but this is the fireworks show game. It has the highest over under point total. It's 50.5 or 50 in some books for the point total here. I expect some offense in this one.
Let me ask you this question. I think I texted you this just in the NFC. So I'm not talking about the AFC side. On the NFC side, so you've got Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Matthew Stafford. Would you say Baker is top 2 in those quarterbacks?
Yeah, and I think I'd probably take Stafford over him.
Right. Because he's got the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean he's
the body of work's a little better, and Stafford's probably not at his peak, but he's still got the arm talent.
I bring that up to say I think Baker is playing really well right now. I think he's got some confidence, and that's why I'm kind of going with them. I mean, obviously I'm a little biased because I've seen them play. I've seen them twice this year, and they've kind of put the Saints in the dirt both games, at least in the second half of both games. So I know he's not going to – I mean, he's obviously without Chris Godwin. They've been without Chris Godwin for most of the year. Still have Mike Evans. Jalen McMillan has come along for them, the rookie. Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving's been very good for them. And we talked about their defense. They got this guy Vita Vea in the middle. Man,
yeah.
Talk about.
And I will say, like their offensive system is good. Like Liam Cohen is on my short list of candidates. I wouldn't mind seeing coaching the Cowboys.
Funny you should mention him. I was looking at, I forget what Twitter account it is, but someone retweeted the betting odds for the next Jaguars coach this morning, and Liam Cohen was like minus money.
Really?
Which I found very interesting because I'm wondering if the Jags, I think Liam Cohen is going to be a very hot commodity for those teams that miss out on Ben Johnson because I think people view him as like the next level down from Ben. Like he's
the
like
next tier,
like a poor man's Ben Johnson almost because like of what he's done this season with Baker, and he also has some college experience because he was at Kentucky prior to this.
Yeah, I want to say like someone was running through all of the kind of like the offenses that he had run, and he's basically had a good offense everywhere he's been, really. So it's just, he's been successful at different levels too.
And he's from the McVay tree. Like
correct.
He was with the Rams under McVay too. So yeah, I definitely think he's going to be getting some. I really hope the Saints at least interview him. But we'll see. All right. Last but not least, Monday Night Football. Vikings at Rams. Rams are getting 1.5. This game brought to you by Sam Bradford. Another rematch here from Week 8. This was a Thursday night game. Rams won 30-20. This was, you and I were talking about this game earlier. This was the game going in. The thought was if the Rams lost that game, then they would kind of start a fire sale, trade Cooper Kupp, trade Puka Nacua. But Puka came back in this game unexpectedly, and Cooper Kupp was in the game, and Rams ended up winning. This was the Vikings' second loss in 5 days because they had just lost to the Lions the first time.
Right.
And then they played this game on the Thursday night in LA. So again, they're in LA here. We're both laying the points with the Vikings. I think we both feel like they're going to kind of bounce back a little bit.
And I think that they're going into this game. They're in a little bit better situation than they were the first time, where they're still playing on the road, but they're not having to do it on a short week. They're still coming off a loss, but like
they get a little more rest. They actually get a little more rest because it's a Sunday to Monday game. Yeah. So I will say, so let me think through this real quick. So if the Packers were to upset the Eagles, which I think you and I both believe is possible,
right,
then that would mean the Packers would go to Detroit for the division round, and then the winner of Commanders-Bucks would face the winner of Vikings-Rams. I think a Vikings-Bucks matchup in the division round would be very intriguing.
That would be a good one,
because you would have two former Carolina Panthers quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, facing each other.
That would be an old NFC Central matchup.
Yeah, the Norris division they used to call it.
Because it was the 4 NFC North team, but then somehow the Bucks were in that division.
Yep.
Just like the random team.
Yep. That was the old
East Central West days.
That's the old Mike Altman. I think it was like when Mike I think when Mike Allstott joined the Bucks, that was at the tail end of that time period. And then they moved to the South, the NFC South. That's when they realigned and did all that. But yeah, that's I think that would be very interesting. If the Eagles win, then they would get whoever. Then you could have Eagles versus Bucks, which would be another rematch from earlier this year, and then you could have Vikings Lions again for that part 3 of that trilogy potentially. So a lot of intriguing possibilities here. What do you think if I had to put your feet to the fire here? What do you think is going to be the best game of the week? If you had to guess,
I've got to feel like it's going to be Vikings Rams.
It
just seems set up for the best possible, best possible matchup there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on here to let's look at our Georgia's getting upset.
This is not good. Worlds are colliding. Georgia's getting upset.
All right. So you and I talked about this. Because there's only 6 games, feels like might be overkill having both of us picking an upset. So what we're going to do instead is, since I won the upsets for the year, I will be doing a upset pick. And I think I'm going to go with, looks like the only upset I really picked would be the Packers. So I'm going to go with the Packers here. Packers to beat the Eagles. I'm going to lock that in.
Paul, I hope you continue your hot streak here.
Yeah, I do as well, for my sake and also for my coworker who's a big Packers fan. And then we'll move on to Jerry. It's a lock.
Oh, Jerry, it's a lock. Kramer, you've had this thing under control for almost 3 years now.
And since you won this category for the season, I will let you pick this one.
I think there's 2 games really that you look at, and I think just based on the fact that the Steelers haven't been playing as well. They're kind of trending downward, and the Ravens have gotten hot. I'm just going to go ahead and take the Ravens over the Steelers. The other one would be, I think the other best possibility would be Bills over Broncos. Just the Bills defense worries me a little bit, so I'll just lean into the number 3 seed Ravens in their divisional matchup.
So if you were, if I don't know if you've played the Pick'em game on ESPN where you have to do the confidence, right? Like you pick the winner, but then you have to assign a
You rank them
right.
most to least confident.
So if you were doing that, you would say Ravens, and you would give that one the most confidence, and then Bills would be kind of the second.
Yep.
I'm guessing Chargers would probably be third. Right?
Chargers probably 3, and then I think I would go.
The NFC's tough.
Yeah, the NFC side. It's really between, I think, Bucks and Eagles here. Probably a slight edge because the Eagles also might be without Jalen Hurts. We still don't know because he's in concussion protocol. So at this point, I'd probably go Bucks, then Eagles, then Vikings. How about you? Would you?
Yeah,
would you rank it the same.
Right, because what I was going to say is, if we go the opposite end, like what game do you have the least confidence in? I would probably say Vikings, because the Rams are, look, McVay's been there before, Stafford's been there before. Like, this is not a team. I don't think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I don't think the Rams are scared of the Vikings.
No, they're a very nobody wants to play us team right now.
Yeah, they've got that bravado for sure of, like, we're not scared of the Vikings at all. So all in all, it'll be a very interesting weekend of football. So when we reconvene next week, we will know our divisional matchups. We will know a college football championship matchup, right? That game's on the 20th, right?
Yeah,
on MLK Day, also Inauguration Day as well.
Huh.
So we'll have all that to talk about. Maybe by next week we have a few more coaching openings. Maybe we've had a coaching hire. Mike Vrabel might be the Patriots head coach by the next time we talk to him. So, but until then, happy football, everyone.
Happy football.